Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Ray with Americans for Prosperity. We're very supportive of Senate Bill 723, which very simply standardizes the election calendar in terms of when special elections can be held. So under this bill, special elections would need to be held either on the primary date or the general election date during election years. And in non-election years, those same elections could be brought to the voters either on what would have been the primary date or what would have been the general election date. The reason that we feel this bill is important is very simply because Arkansas has a problem with special elections. Local governments across the state will use special elections held at irregular and unpredictable times as part of a deliberate strategy to pass tax increases without drawing serious scrutiny from the voters. And this leads to lower voter participation and higher taxes on Arkansans. We feel that allowing those who have an interest in the outcome of the election to strategically determine its timing is inherently problematic. First of all, special elections provide an uneven playing field for taxpayers. Fewer casual voters show up in special elections because the benefit to them is dispersed. However, voters who have a particular interest in these elections, for example, city workers or whatever the case may be, show up in full force. And the low turnout in those elections allows their policy goals to dominate. So for example, in 2012, the North Little Rock School District held a millage election on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, even though there was a perfectly good primary election just a handful of days up the road. Secondly, this uneven playing field for taxpayers leads to higher taxes. Since 1981, there have been over 900 local sales tax elections in Arkansas, and about 70% of those succeeded in raising the tax rate. But when held on a general election date, when turnout is the highest, pass rate was only 42%. When more people participate, the voters are more discerning and have an opportunity for a larger amount of people to make their voice heard. Third, this bill will increase voter turnout. There's been a lot of talk about what keeps people from voting. I think that holding elections at irregular and unpredictable times is probably the ultimate barrier to participation for the average voter. Now, in closing, I just want to address a couple of the common criticisms of this legislation. One, this bill does not usurp local control. It simply standardizes the process at the local level, and again, allowing the people who have an interest in the outcome to strategically control the timing is inherently problematic. This legislation contains several exemptions that address criticisms that previous versions of this legislation have contained. So first, the legislation exempts school board elections. Secondly, it contains an exemption in the event of an actual emergency, such as a fire, tornado, flood, some type of natural disaster. And third, this legislation doesn't apply to elections that are held to fill vacancies in office, nor does it apply to runoff elections. Others will say that we need to hold special elections at irregular times because the bond markets fluctuate daily. But a vote to approve a bond sale only gives local government the authority that it needs to interact with the bank. Citizens don't vote on the price or the interest rate, and therefore voters can approve a bond sale on a standardized election date, and then the local government and the bank can execute the sale on the day that they deem most appropriate. We feel that this is a bill that is badly needed for the taxpayers of our state. It will level the playing field for taxpayers, increase voter participation, and ultimately help our tax climate across the state. And that's why we support Senate Bill 723. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee?